Good morning. I hope today is off to a great start for you. We have so much to be thankful for as Christians. One of those things we can be thankful for is the way that He guides us into being exactly the people that He wants us to be, the people that we were designed to be. As we started yesterday down this path, we're calling it a path to Christian maturity. It is based on it's what I dealt with in a sermon on Sunday, but I draw these things that we're examining one at a time now from the book of 2 Peter in the first chapter. It gives us what I'm identifying here as this pathway to Christian maturity, because one step at a time it shows us the development of our faith and how that can really work for us to be as Christ-like as possible. The world often sees the Christian faith as a set of moral standards. Well, this is how this list begins. It began, first of all, and we talked about this yesterday, with faith. And then it says, add to your faith moral excellence. And this is what the world often sees in the Christian faith. It thinks that it is just a set of rules that people have to abide by. And while it is true that we have a moral standard, that's not what our faith is based on. Our faith is actually based on the person of Jesus, the Christ, and the historic fact of His death and His burial and His resurrection. All things go back to that as the root of what our faith is truly representing. So, being a follower of Christ, we understand that we start with faith, but now we add to that moral excellence. We understand that the Christian faith does carry with it this standard of moral expectation, and that expectation is indeed the highest of moral standards. We are to love all people. We're to be the servants to one another. We're to seek out and care for those who are identified as the least of these, that is, those who are the most helpless, the most overlooked in our societies. We're to live lives that are above reproach so that those who oppose Christ can find nothing bad to say about us. We are to be honest, dedicated to the truth, and sexually pure. The world actually looks at our moral standard and they either laugh at us or they scorn us because we believe that marriage is designed to be the union of one man and one woman for life. We believe that homosexuality is wrong, not because we personally oppose it, but because the Word of God opposes it. We believe that sex outside marriage is a sin. We believe that there is right and wrong, and that those things are identified by the Word of God itself. And we believe that we are to give up our own personal moral standards in order to follow that righteousness that comes purely from God. We are to be honest. We are to display speech that is pure and loving and encouraging. When the Apostle Paul was writing to the young preacher Timothy, he was writing to him words that would encourage him and direct him in the work that he was doing in his life of ministry. And he wrote this. He was encouraging Timothy to live this high moral standard. He wrote this to him. We find it in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. Let no one look down on your youthfulness, but rather in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, show yourself an example of those who believe. Now, please keep in mind that this standard actually does not define our faith. It merely demonstrates it to others. There have been some who have made the mistake of thinking that anyone who practices a high standard of morality is automatically a Christian, but that's not right. There are highly moral people who do not follow Christ, and we need to understand that. They see their own morality, their high standard of morality, as simply the very best way to live, which in fact it is, because we are designed to live that way. But there's so much more to our Christianity than that. So our morality does not necessarily identify us as the people of Christ, but our lack of morality can certainly convince others that we are not the people of Christ. So again, today I ask you, take a look at self. Look in that mirror. Is that person a person of moral excellence? You know better than anybody else. Now others are going to have their opinions, but you know better than anybody. Is that person that you see in that mirror a person of high moral excellence? Is that person displaying an honesty, a love, a compassion, and a purity that reflect Jesus? That is our moral standard. He is our moral standard, and therefore we follow him. And in following him, we are living this moral standard that should indeed identify us in a very special way. We start with our faith, and we add to our faith moral excellence. Consider these things this day, and I hope that the rest of this day goes well for you. Bye.
They resound with God's own heart. Oh, let the ancient words impart words of life, words of hope.